You ever have one of those moments that hits you so hard it feels like your whole life just rewound and played back in slow motion, but now with subtitles that finally make sense? That night at Tanner's Bar and Grill, that was my moment. We were out with her friends, again. Friday night, same crowd. Her circle of smug 30-somethings who still acted like frat kids. All inside jokes and backhanded compliments. I tolerated them for Amanda because I believed, stupidly, that's what love looked like. Endurance. Amanda sat across from me, sipping her second gin and tonic, laughing that high-pitched, exaggerated laugh that made it clear she wasn't laughing at the joke, but for attention. Her hand was on Derek's shoulder. Her friend. The guy with a tan too permanent to be natural and teeth too white to be trustworthy. Then one of them, maybe it was Chelsea, cracked a joke. Something about married men being emotionally neutered. Everyone roared. Amanda looked me right in the eyes and said with a smirk, "If you don't like my friend's rude jokes, you can just pay and leave." Like that, like I was some outsider in my own marriage. Some guest overstaying his welcome. I stared at her. I wanted to believe she was kidding, that this was just her trying to be cool in front of her loser friends. But something about her tone wasn't a joke. It was a dare. So I said, "Thanks for the option." Cool, calm, controlled. Then I stood up, reached for my wallet, peeled off 2 20s, and dropped them on the table. My beer was only half finished. I didn't care. I grabbed my car keys and walked out of the restaurant. I didn't even look back. But I could hear the laughter dying behind me like someone had yanked the cord on the party. That's when they realized I wasn't bluffing. Amanda didn't follow. Not that night. Not even a text until 3 hours later. "Where did you go?" That was embarrassing. Embarrassing for her, apparently. That walk to the car, man. I've never felt more awake. The air hit different. Cold, biting. Everything looked sharper. Streetlights, passing cars, even the cracks in the sidewalk. Like betrayal had cleared the fog from my brain. When I sat in the driver's seat, hands trembling against the wheel, I didn't even start the engine. I just stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. And I whispered, "What the hell is happening to us?" But deep down, I already knew. It wasn't just the friends or the attitude or the public humiliation. This was the tip of something rotten, something buried deep in the foundation. Amanda hadn't touched me in weeks. No late-night cuddles. No spontaneous kisses. The warmth between us had faded slowly, like a dimmer switch turned down without me noticing. She'd started working late. Started smiling at her phone more than at me. Started calling me dude more than babe. I didn't want to be that guy, paranoid, insecure. But when you get kicked in the chest hard enough, your eyes open real fast. That night, I didn't go home. I drove. For hours. Just me, the hum of the engine, and a million racing thoughts. I slept in the car. Parked outside a closed-down Walmart. The kind of place you end up when your world starts to unravel. The next morning, I walked into our house at 7:03 a.m. Amanda was on the couch, in sweatpants and a hoodie, scrolling through her phone like nothing happened. She didn't even say hi, just a cold glance over her screen and, "Did you enjoy your little tantrum?" Tantrum. I walked past her, into the bedroom, pulled out the drawer where she kept her jewelry and found what I was looking for, her smartwatch. I'd bought it for her birthday. I synced it to her phone myself. Guess what I forgot? It logged locations. I tapped through her steps. Monday, gym. Tuesday, work late. But the GPS didn't go to the office. It went to the Glenwood Inn twice in 1 week. I felt like someone had dropped ice water down my spine. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe it was just dinner. Maybe she was meeting a client, a friend. I told myself all that. I tried. God, I tried. But Amanda wasn't the kind of woman who checked into Glenwood for business meetings. That place had hourly rates. I stood in the bedroom doorway, holding the watch like it was a smoking gun. She looked up, noticed it, and didn't even flinch. "Really?" she said. "You're checking my steps now? What, are you 12? And that's when I realized I wasn't married to the woman I fell in love with. I was married to a stranger. Worse, a stranger who didn't care if I knew the truth. The next few hours felt like I was standing outside my own life, watching everything crumble in slow motion. Amanda didn't try to explain the Glenwood. She didn't even ask why I had her watch. She just rolled her eyes, got up, and walked to the kitchen like I'd interrupted her TikTok scroll. She was completely unfazed. That indifference cut deeper than anything else. I followed her. "Amanda," I said, holding the watch in my hand. "Who were you with at Glenwood on Tuesday?" She didn't turn around. She poured coffee like she had all the time in the world. Then, finally, she sighed and said, "Do we really have to do this right now?" "Yes, now." She turned, leaned against the counter, mug in hand like she was about to give a press conference. "Okay," she said, voice calm, too calm. "If you must know, I went there with Derek. We were talking. Things have been weird between us lately. I needed advice." I almost laughed. Advice? At a hotel. A hotel with mirrored ceilings and mood lighting. What kind of advice requires a private room at the Glenwood Inn? I asked. She took a sip and stared me dead in the eye. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Nothing happened. And even if it did, maybe if you'd actually paid attention to me the last few months, I wouldn't need to go elsewhere." There it was. The switch. The spin. Suddenly it was my fault. "You're seriously blaming me?" I said. "For you sneaking off to a motel with your friend?" Amanda's mask cracked for a second. Her jaw clenched. Then she smirked. "You're not exactly exciting lately, Tom. You used to be spontaneous. Now all you do is work, eat, and watch replays of football games. You're boring." That word, boring, burned through me like acid. I wasn't expecting a confession, but I also didn't expect this. The cold, calculated rewriting of reality. No guilt, no shame, just this smug, entitled attitude like she was doing me a favor by staying. I walked out of the kitchen and straight into the home office. I pulled open drawers, went through files, grabbed her laptop. I didn't care if it was low. I didn't care if it was wrong. I needed proof, something undeniable, and I found it. A saved PDF in her email, hotel confirmation for 2 nights. Glenwood Inn. Under her name, paid in full. The name Derek F. listed as a second guest. It wasn't advice. It was a getaway. I didn't say anything. I just printed the damn thing and walked back into the living room. She looked up as I dropped the paper in front of her. Her eyes flicked down. Just for a second. No panic. No guilt. Then she folded her arms and muttered, "I was going to tell you." I just stared at her. "You were gonna tell me?" I said quietly. She nodded like she believed it. "Yeah." Eventually. A laugh escaped my throat. Dry, broken. Eventually. Like after the 3rd night. She set her coffee mug down and walked away. Just turned her back and disappeared into the bedroom. That's when I realized she wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared of losing me. She wasn't even trying to fix it. And somehow that hurt worse than the betrayal. Because betrayal implies that someone once cared enough to lie. Amanda didn't even care to lie well. You know what people don't tell you? It's not the cheating that breaks you. It's the gaslighting. The way they twist your reality until you're not even sure if your anger is valid anymore. That same night, I sat in the kitchen with the printout of the hotel reservation still on the table. Amanda came back out of the bedroom like nothing happened, wearing her pink hoodie and scrolling through her phone again, like we hadn't just crossed a line we could never uncross. I waited. I gave her time. Minutes passed. The silence between us grew so loud it buzzed in my ears. "You done ignoring me?" I finally asked. She didn't even glance up. "You done acting like I'm the villain in your sad little drama?" There it was. "You cheated," I said, voice low, steady. "You lied. I didn't make you do that." She dropped her phone on the table. "Oh, please, Tom. Don't pretend you're some innocent victim. You checked out of this marriage months ago." I just finally gave myself permission to do the same. I blinked. "By going to a motel with another man?" She shrugged. "At least he listens. At least he sees me." The calm in her voice was almost psychopathic. "That's your excuse?" I asked. "I didn't give you enough attention, so you took your panties to the Glenwood like it was self-care?" Amanda stood now. Full height. Arms crossed. Head tilted. You're not exactly easy to live with, Tom. Everything has to be your way, your schedule. You stopped caring. I found someone who made me feel alive again. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. This isn't a coming-of-age movie, Amanda. You're not 16 and discovering yourself. You're a grown woman who snuck around behind her husband's back. And now you're acting like a victim. She leaned in, venom behind her words. You want the truth, Tom? Fine. We did it. Okay. We had fun. A lot more than you and I ever had in the last year. You want to hate me? Go ahead. I'm not sorry. That hit me in the chest like a hammer. Not because I didn't expect it, because she wanted me to hurt. She wanted me to break. And for a second, I almost did. I grabbed a chair and sat down. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I felt nauseous, but I needed to stay calm. If I lost control, she'd win. So what now? I asked. You going to move in with Derek? Her face flickered. That hit a nerve. Good. Don't be ridiculous, she said. It wasn't like that. I raised an eyebrow. But I thought he made you feel alive? She rolled her eyes and walked toward the hallway. I'm done with this conversation. You can sleep on the couch. I laughed again, louder this time. You cheat on me, lie to my face, and I'm the one who gets the couch? No response. Just the sound of the bedroom door closing behind her like the final click of a coffin lid. I sat there for a while, staring at nothing, processing everything, and yet nothing. I wanted to scream, to punch something, but instead, I just stared at the coffee mug she'd left behind. Her lipstick smeared on the rim like a signature on her betrayal. I realized something then. I wasn't married to a woman anymore. I was married to a storm in human form. A woman who could destroy everything in her path and then blame the wind for blowing too hard. And storms don't apologize. They just move on to the next town. The days after that fight were a blur of cold silences and petty cruelty. Amanda didn't apologize. Not once. She didn't even pretend to. She floated around the house like she hadn't just torn our marriage in half with one smug shrug and a motel receipt. She cooked her own meals, did her own laundry, moved her stuff into the guest bedroom like it was some dorm setup between roommates, and she left the door open when she was on video calls. Loud laughter, flirting tones, pretending like life was just peachy. She never said Derek's name again. She didn't have to. On Thursday, I came home from work early. I didn't plan to, just felt off like my gut knew something my brain didn't yet. As I walked up the porch, I noticed an unfamiliar pair of sneakers by the front door. My stomach dropped. I opened the door quietly, listening. Voices, laughter. From the living room, I stepped in and there he was, Derek, slouched back on my couch, wearing a smug grin and holding a beer like he'd lived there for years. Amanda sat beside him, legs crossed toward him, one arm draped on the backrest. Too familiar, too casual. She didn't flinch. Neither of them did. Oh, she said, not even standing. Guess I forgot you get off early today. I stood there, stunned, blinking at the two of them like I was the one who'd walked into the wrong house. You forgot? I asked slowly, my voice quieter than I expected. You invited him here? Derek gave me a lazy nod. Sup, man? Don't man me. I snapped, stepping forward. You think you can sneak into my house like this is some frat party? Amanda rolled her eyes. Relax. He just stopped by. It's not a big deal. Not a big? I stopped myself. My fists clenched. I could feel heat rising up my neck. She stood, sighing like I was the one being unreasonable. It's my house too, Tom. You don't get to act like you own the place just because you paid for the couch he's sitting on. Derek chuckled. That was his first and last mistake. I walked over, leaned in close. Get the hell out of my house. Now. He stood slowly, towering over me. Big guy. Gym muscles. Spray-tanned confidence. You sure about that? He asked, cocky. Amanda stepped between us. He's leaving. Aren't you, Derek? He hesitated, then smirked. Yeah, all right. He walked past me, slow on purpose, like he wanted me to swing. But I didn't. I stared straight ahead and waited for the door to close behind him. Amanda turned to me, arms folded. You gonna throw everyone out now? What's next? Ban my friends. You lost the right to talk about friends the second you slept with one. Oh, please, she snapped. Like I was the first person to get bored in this marriage. You just didn't have the balls to admit it. That line hit hard, and it stuck, because for a while she wasn't wrong. I had been pulling away, but not because I stopped loving her, because I couldn't keep loving someone who didn't respect me, someone who thought loyalty was optional. I didn't cheat, Amanda, I said. You did. Don't rewrite the story just because you don't like how you look in it. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, with the coldest voice I'd ever heard from her lips, she said, then rewrite the ending yourself. I'm done. And with that, she walked to the guest room, slammed the door and locked it. That was the moment I realized we weren't just broken. We were finished. The next morning felt like I was living in someone else's skin. The silence in the house wasn't peaceful, it was strategic. Amanda didn't come out of the guest room. No texts, no notes, just that closed door like a wall between us. I walked past it, back and forth, pretending I didn't care, pretending I wasn't counting how long it had been since we last looked each other in the eye. But by Friday night, I cracked. I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, no ice, sat at the kitchen table, stared at my phone. Then I made the dumbest move a man in my position can make. I started scrolling through old photos. Me and Amanda at the lake, her sitting on my lap at a bonfire, laughing at something stupid I said. Us at the Grand Canyon, flushed from hiking, but smiling like we just discovered something sacred. It wasn't fake. Couldn't have been fake. And yet, here we were. I was still sitting there when she finally emerged from the guest room. Hair tied up, pajama shorts, not even a glance in my direction. I spoke before I could stop myself. Do you even feel anything about what you did? She paused at the fridge, reached in for a water bottle. Don't start. No, I said, standing. You don't get to cheat. Bring that prick into my house, and then say don't start. That's not how this works. She turned to me, eyes tired but sharp. I feel relief, Tom. You want the truth? There it is. For once, I don't have to pretend. Pretend what? I asked. That you ever gave a damn about this marriage? She walked closer, arms folded across her chest. I gave everything, Tom, but you didn't notice. You stopped showing up. Emotionally, physically, spiritually. I was invisible to you. I shook my head. No, don't spin this like you're the victim. You could have talked to me, screamed at me, asked for a damn conversation. But instead, you opened your legs and checked out. Her expression didn't even flicker. That scared me more than yelling ever could. You want honesty? She asked. Fine. It wasn't just Derek. There were others. One-night stands. A few DMs that turned into something. Some of them I don't even remember the names. Silence. The kitchen walls felt like they were closing in. You what? I said, barely whispering. I did what I wanted, she said. Because I was done waiting for you to love me like you used to. Every word was a bullet. So this was revenge? I asked. You went behind my back over and over because I wasn't what? Romantic enough? Didn't take enough selfies with you? She scoffed. You don't get it. You still don't. I wanted to feel alive again. Desired. I was tired of waiting for the version of you I married to come back. That's when something inside me snapped. You wanted a spark? You wanted to feel desired? Great. Congrats. You're desired by a bunch of dudes who wouldn't even remember your name if you didn't show up in lingerie. Her eyes went wide, then narrow. Go to hell, Tom. I stepped back. My chest was heaving, hands shaking. I think I already did, I said quietly. And you were the tour guide. Amanda stood there for a beat longer, then walked back to the guest room without another word. The door clicked shut behind her, locking me out of whatever version of her still existed inside. That was it. There was no coming back from that night. No apology would ever fix it. No therapy could stitch up what had been deliberately shredded. This wasn't marriage anymore. It was war. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling fan spinning like it was mocking me with its constant rhythm. Steady, predictable. The exact opposite of Amanda. At some point around 3 a.m., I sat up and said it out loud. I'm done. Not just with the fighting, not just with the betrayal, with her. The woman in that guest room wasn't Amanda anymore. Or maybe she never really was. Maybe I'd fallen in love with an illusion. The next morning, I didn't tell her I'd made up my mind. I didn't slam doors. I didn't yell. I just got dressed, grabbed my laptop, and drove to a cafe downtown. One of those quiet places with black coffee and jazz playing on low volume. I sat in a corner booth and opened a browser tab. How to file for divorce in Ohio. Simple, clean, step by step. I scrolled through the requirements half in a daze. No kids, no shared debt, no prenup. Thank God for small mercies. All that was left was property and whatever dignity I had left to split. The next thing I did felt surreal. I booked an appointment with a lawyer. Monday at 10 a.m. A man named Graham Bell, divorce specialist. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a fantasy anymore. This wasn't something I'd threaten her with to make a point. This was happening. And it felt peaceful. Not satisfying. Not victorious. Just still. Like standing in the eye of the hurricane after being whipped around by wind for months. I didn't go home right away. I walked through the city. Let the noise swallow me up. Horns. Voices. Dogs barking. A couple laughing outside a brunch spot. I felt like a ghost passing through a world that had already moved on. When I finally stepped back into the house around 5 p.m., Amanda was sitting on the living room floor surrounded by unfolded laundry. Not hers. Not mine. Just scattered clothes. A sock in her hand like she forgot what she was doing. She looked up at me, something different in her eyes. Not regret. Not even sadness. Just weariness. We're really done, aren't we? She asked. I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door. Yeah, I said. We are. She nodded. Looked down at the sock. You filing or am I? I already set an appointment, I said. Monday morning. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. Just said, okay. Then, as I turned to go to the bedroom to start packing some of my things, she added, you should know I never loved Derek. Or any of them. I stopped in the hallway. Then why? She stood up slowly. Because I hated feeling small. And you made me feel invisible. I was drowning too, Amanda. I said, my back still turned. I just didn't drag anyone else under with me. She didn't reply. And I didn't need her to. I packed that night. Essentials only. Some clothes. Laptop. Chargers. A few photos from better days, not of us, just places we'd been. I didn't take my wedding ring off yet. I didn't want to give her that satisfaction. Not until it was final. When I left the next morning, I didn't say goodbye. She didn't come to the door. There was no closure. No movie ending. Just a man walking away from the ruins of something he once believed in. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel confused. I felt free. Freedom isn't what they sell you in those inspirational quotes. It's not this glowing sense of peace. It's quiet, raw, and awkward, like walking around your house in socks soaked with rainwater. You're not drowning anymore. Sure, but everything's still cold and uncomfortable. After I left Amanda, I moved into a small, furnished apartment across town. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, the kind of place you rent when you don't care about sunlight or wall color. I didn't bother decorating. Just needed a bed, a coffee pot, and a door that only I held the key to. The first week was brutal. I still reached for 2 coffee mugs every morning out of habit. I still glanced at my phone expecting her name to pop up with something sarcastic or cruel. And at night, I'd hear echoes in the silence. Not voices, just the ghost of routine. Her hairdryer humming behind a closed door. Her footsteps pacing when she couldn't sleep. Even the fights had a rhythm I'd grown used to. And then came the emails. Amanda didn't bother calling. She was too proud for that. But I got these weirdly polite messages from her. Subject: laundry. Your blue dress shirt is still here. Want me to drop it off or toss it? Subject: Netflix login. I changed the password. Figured you'd want your own. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. She wrote it like she hadn't gutted me and left the carcass in our living room. But the real punch in the ribs came 3 weeks later. I got a DM on Instagram from Chelsea, one of her awful little wine night friends. Hey, just wanted you to hear it from someone who's not fake. Amanda and Derek are official now. Sorry, dude. Official. Like we were just a beta test before her grand opening. I sat there, phone in my hand, staring at the message while my stomach twisted into knots. And what really drove it in wasn't that she moved on, it was that she made it public. She wanted people to see it, to know, maybe even to hurt me with it. I didn't respond to Chelsea, didn't say a word to Amanda. I went to the gym instead, cranked metal in my headphones until my legs gave out on the treadmill. That was the first night I slept for more than 4 hours since leaving. But you know what hit harder than her being with Derek? The realization that I still loved her. Some small, stupid part of me did. And that was the real sickness. I had to kill that version of myself, the man still hanging onto the idea of Amanda, not the woman she actually was. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my older brother, Eli. We hadn't talked much since my wedding. He never liked Amanda. Said she was the type who smiled with her teeth, not her eyes. We met up that weekend. Couple beers. No pressure. He took one look at me and said, "You look like a man who's finally in his own skin again." I feel like one who just crawled out of it, I admitted. Then he said something that stuck with me. There's pain in losing someone, but there's poison in keeping them when they've already left you emotionally. He was right. Amanda didn't leave the day I walked out. She'd left long before that. Emotionally, mentally, morally. All I did was catch up. They say time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal anything. Perspective does. Work does. Time just gives you space to figure out if you're going to sit in your misery or finally stand up and walk out of it. It's been 6 months since I left Amanda. Feels like 6 years. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. Clean split. No court drama. No drawn-out sob stories or fake apologies. Just 2 signatures on cold paper and 20 minutes of a judge asking the bare minimum. She wore a blazer and didn't even look at me once during the hearing. I guess I should thank her for that. I used to think I needed closure. Turns out silence was my closure. Since then, I've started rebuilding piece by jagged piece. I got back into playing guitar. Found it buried in the back of the closet when I moved. Dusted it off, rest-wrung it, and started teaching myself again with YouTube tutorials and cheap wine. Not because I thought I'd be good, but because it reminded me I was still capable of learning, of growing. I started seeing a therapist too. A guy named Victor, ex-military, no-nonsense type. First session, he looked at me and said, "So what hurts more? That she cheated, or that you let it go on longer than you should have?" That one stung. But he was right. The truth is, Amanda didn't destroy me. She just exposed how long I'd been ignoring the cracks in myself. I'd allowed disrespect to become routine. I thought being a good man meant being quiet, being patient, being understanding, even when I was being lied to. I didn't set boundaries. I didn't speak up. I let her shape the rules and then acted surprised when she cheated the game. I don't hate her anymore. That surprised me. She was selfish, cruel, disrespectful. But she was also broken in her own way. It doesn't excuse what she did. Not even close. But hating her would mean I was still tied to her. And I've cut the rope. Derek? I don't think about him much. He did me a favor. Took a poison out of my house and wore it like a prize. Let him have it. The fire always looks beautiful when it's not burning you yet. As for love, I'm not there. Not ready. Not even looking. But I'll tell you this. I do love my mornings now. Silence in my apartment. My coffee the way I like it. No one judging how long I sit in my robe. No one making sarcastic comments about my music. Just peace. That's something Amanda never understood. Peace isn't boring. Peace is sacred. And if anyone ever walks into my life again, it'll be because they bring more peace, not noise, not chaos. not games. So if some man out there's reading this, maybe in the thick of his own storm, here's what I'd tell you. Trust your gut. When something feels off, it is. When someone makes you feel small, it's not love, it's control. And when someone shows you they don't respect you, don't argue, don't beg, don't scream, leave. Because staying in something broken doesn't make you loyal. It makes you afraid, and fear's no foundation for a life. I wasted too many years trying to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed. Now, I'm just learning how to build me again. And for once, I actually like the guy I'm building.